What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're going to jump in and talk through what we know about Season 14 for Destiny 2, which of course is starting on May 11th as far as we know. And thanks to various Bungie updates, we have a pretty solid list of changes to expect. Things like adjustments to vendors and reward systems, weapon updates, perk changes, plus a few early content teasers with some activity stuff and more. And since most of the season previews will happen a couple of weeks before launch, we have more details about technical changes than information about brand new content. But for any folks who want the roundup of what we know, this video should be pretty useful. And as always, give us your thoughts down below. And so getting into confirmed changes for Season 14 of the game, initially speaking about vendor updates. According to Bungie, Ikora Ray is going to be a key character for Season 14, so it has been a while since we heard from Ikora, and of course she could be a key vendor for the Season 14 content, but as we've seen with the story stuff this season, multiple different characters have played a role, so it's entirely likely that she'll be part of a wider story right there with other characters involved, but nonetheless she's going to be far more present, and Bungie added that she'll also play a pivotal role in the upcoming Witch Queen expansion in 2022. For more technical vendor changes though, Bungie say that Banshee 44 the Gunsmith will no longer be selling armor mods, but will retain the rest of the items he currently has on sale. So, of course, a few materials, gunsmith engrams and things like that. But additionally, Banshee 44 will start to sell a selection of 6 weapons, which are randomly chosen from the world loot pool. And so there will be 2 kinetic, 2 energy, and 2 power weapons each week, rolling out with random rolls. So, moving into Season 14, we are actually going to start to get some randomly rolled vendor weapons, which is pretty awesome. And of course, it's going to be a new thing for us to speak about at the weekly reset right here on the channel as well. Bungie did confirm that the reason Banshee is no longer going to sell armor stuff is of course because of the return of Ada 1. And she's going to be taking care of the new armor synthesis system, but also, Bungie have said that every day, Ada 1 will sell 1 randomly chosen armor mod from the general and armor slot, as well as 1 randomly chosen combat style armor mod. And that'll include things like Charged with Light and Warmind Cell mods. And then on top of that, she's also going to sell 1 armor set every single week, that much like Banshee will be chosen from the world loot pool, with stat rolls that also change on a weekly basis. And so that's going to make things more interesting. But finally, in addition, Ada 1 will also sell armor upgrade materials, so modules, enhancement prisms, and ascendant shards. And when we jump into Season 14, there'll be a quest to kick things off. And when we complete this, we'll get a supply of synthesis materials, which will be used for the new armor synthesis system. And Ada will also offer a set of bounties that highlight various activity types. And so between all of the seasonal quests, we'll actually receive materials that we need to power up Ada's Loom, which is where armor synthesis actually takes place. So we're going to be able to use that system to turn any piece of armor we have into a permanent universal ornament. And then of course, we're going to have a new appearance screen for armor, which will allow us to manage the ornaments on all of our pieces of gear at the same time, as well as being able to apply shaders on an individual or character-wide basis for the currently equipped armor. So that's going to be really cool, and in addition, it means that shaders will now be permanent unlocks, and we won't have to hold on to stacks of them in our inventory. So that's certainly going to be a part of the pursuit for Season 14, and obviously, with us having various different quests to complete, including the introduction quest, it will likely be related to the kind of story and narrative for the season. And so of course, it's also likely that we'll see interactions between Ikora Ray and Ada 1. So a few things to think about there, but moving on, let's speak about various changes and introductions to the game. So, of course, a few weeks ago, Bungie introduced the Gilding system for titles. Bear in mind if you're working towards any right now, or have any unlocked already, there will be a fresh guild color for each season with new objectives to unlock it. So the ones that we have this season will reset. But from Season 14, when players guild a title, it'll actually display how many times that title has been guilded in the past. So despite the fact we'll have to re-earn the guild, we'll at least be able to show off how many times we've actually gilded it. Of course, for power and power capping gear, we know that from Season 14, Bungie will no longer be sunsetting stuff, and so anything we've earned in the game right now, and stuff that we earn from Season 14 onwards, sunsetting won't actually apply to it for quite some time. But also, for Season 14, Bungie will only be raising the power cap by 10 points, so we'll essentially only be in the 10-point pinnacle band of power pursuit, which is kind of how we've seen Bungie do that in the past. And then of course, the really big piece of content that we know about is the Vault of Glass, and they do say the general aim is to return a piece of content that we remember to the game, but also to update it to meet the Destiny 2 difficulty and raid standards, which means the high-level experience of Vault of Glass should remain the same, but it will have a few tricks up its sleeves, and so possibly some new mechanics, and the raid will launch with a contest mode, as well as a world first race, that requires an additional curated list of triumphs to be completed before the world first team can actually be decided, so obviously that's going to be a pretty intriguing one. Now though, let's move on to changes that'll affect PvP, as well as trials and rewards. And in the Sandbox, Bungie had said a few weeks back that across Season 13 and 14, they'll be adjusting stasis in the Crucible in order to bring its overall effectiveness in line with light subclasses. A bunch of the changes they spoke about did actually land in the game this season, but it sounds like there could be a few more for Season 14, and some of that stuff could still be being tuned based on the reception of those changes this season. But, of course, for Trials specifically, as well as Nightfall weapons, and the Adept variants of both of those, for new drops of the weapons in Season 14, when dropping from Nightfall's Bottomless Grief will grant a permanently active plus 30 to the magazine, but will also become a fixed alternate perk in the left column on Adept drops of the Nightfall weapons. And that means we can switch between that perk and a randomly rolled perk in the same slot. That's also going to be the case for Trials weapons, but they'll come with Celerity, which will grant a permanently active plus 20 to both reload and handling, also becoming a fixed alternate perk in the right column on Adept weapons. And Bungie confirmed that the changes to the perks will apply to all rolls of the weapons that currently exist, but in order to get the slot that's actually switchable, they will need to be earned in Season 14 and beyond. So current rolls of those weapons with those perks will see a buff to the bonuses, but won't see the switchable slot, if that makes sense. Of course, also in terms of weapons, we are going to get a new pursuit weapon for Season 14. We've had a sniper and a grenade launcher, so kind of curious to see what Bungie do for the next season. And also vaguely on the subject of playlist weapons, so weapons like Bottom Dollar and Gambit right now, they say the plan is to continue adding to the pools in future seasons, but there could be some seasons where the pools remain the same, and perhaps others where a new weapon is added in while one is rotated out, so no absolute guarantee as to whether we're going to see additional weapons next season, but it's entirely possible. We will of course though still get new weapons linked to the season's activity, as well as ones from the season pass, exotics, quest drops, and so on. But finally here, we have some possible updates that could come in Season 14, as well as things to bear in mind about seasonal content changeovers. So this season, which of course is Season 13, is when Bungie introduced Gambit and Crucible ranks. But they did say in a future season, they'll be doing the same thing for strikes. So again, that could come in Season 14 in May, or it might be something that comes in Season 15. But also across the rest of the year, Bungie say they're targeting an overhaul of the Trials of Osiris reward structure and matchmaking paradigms, generally to make the game mode more rewarding, but also fairer in terms of matchmaking. So those were kind of broad goals that they outlined. Again, it's possible that they'll be touching on some of that stuff in Season 14, and otherwise it could be a bit later on in the year. But on the subject of seasonal challenges, for the moment, on top of Gilded titles resetting, one of the things we know about the season changeover is that most of the challenges from the season will actually disappear after the season ends. Bungie have pointed out that they aren't adding any new challenges after week 10, so for the last kind of month of the season, we've got the opportunity to wrap up any that we want to get done before it ends. And they point out that the challenges that will stick around are ones that reward unique or seasonal items, so currencies, lore books, and seasonal weapons, and they can be completed as long as the season activity is still in the game, but XP won't be awarded for completing the challenge if you do it in a different season. And so just bear that in mind. Essentially, it is best to get any of them done now, before Season 14 actually rolls around. And for the moment, guys, that is the full list of what we currently know about Season 14 in Destiny 2. We may get a couple of additional bits of info over the next few weeks, but especially by very late in April and early May, info drops on that next season will start to roll in. So, as always, stay tuned here to the channel if you want to be kept up to date on the world of Destiny 2. But as always, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Be sure to give us any of your thoughts down in the comment section, what you think of the changes they've spoken about, or things that you'd love to see in Season 14. And if you have enjoyed the video, a rating also very much helps us out down below. But for now, guys, thanks as always for tuning in, and I hope you have an awesome day.